له دكاء. Allah is going to bring down the barrier. وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّ حَقًّا. And when Allah brings down the barrier, then the warning of my Lord will come to pass. وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْدَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. When Allah brings down the barrier, then on that day, Gog and Magog will begin to sally forth like waves, one after the other. And they will be crashing into each other. And so there will be conflict everywhere. There will be crisis everywhere. There will be fighting everywhere. There would be killing everywhere. There would be bloodshed everywhere. There would be corruption everywhere. There would be wickedness everywhere. There would be oppression everywhere. وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْدَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ وَنُفِخَ فِي السُّورِ. When Allah brings down the barrier, then the trumpet will be sounded. But we ain't going yet. When the trumpet is sounded, now listen. فَجَمَعْنَاهُمْ جَمَعًا. فَجَمَعْنَاهُمْ جَمَعًا. In consequence of Gog and Magog being released, eventually all of mankind will be brought together in one global society. Is the Quran beginning to explain to you the world in which you live today? فَجَمَعْنَاهُمْ جَمَعًا. We will bring all of mankind together as one jama'a, one global society. وَأَعَدْنَا جَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْكَافِرِينَ أَرْضًا. As that global society progresses, all of mankind being brought together, a way of life will be presented before mankind, in which those who have eyes to wish to see can see this is Jahannam. الذين كانت أعينهم في غطاء عن ذكري. These people who ought to be able to see, wait a minute, but this is Jahannam in here before us today. But they can't see it because their eyes have been veiled from the zikr of Allah. وَكَانُوا لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ السَّمْعَ. And they were incapable of hearing. They were incapable of seeing. Meaning, seeing with the internal sight. They were incapable of hearing. Meaning, hearing with the internal faculty of hearing. This is the passage of Sura El Kehf. Now, before we turn to examine when will Allah bring down the barrier, let us look in a preliminary way at what the world is going to be like eventually when Allah brings down the barrier and Gog and Magog are released. Number one, that power will eventually now be seized in the world by a people whose power will be such that no combination of rivals in the whole world can stand up to them. They will have absolute control over the world. The land, the sea, the air. Arnold Toynbee wrote an article way back in must have been the 1920s or the 1930s, and I have a copy of that article. And Arnold Toynbee declared that mankind should know that Western civilization has embarked upon an effort to take complete control over the whole world. The land, the sea, the air. These are his words. And indeed, they have done that. When Gog and Magog are released, not only would the world witness this unique, unprecedented power by one people, but it would be a people who hitherto had never walked on the stage of the world. No. When China was a great civilization, and Babylon was a great civilization, these people were living as wild tribes. When Gog and Magog are released, and the world witnesses a people, one people, with two faces, wielding this unprecedented power, the world is going to also witness that power now rests on foundations which are exactly the opposite of total men. His was power resting on the foundations of faith. And this is power resting on foundations which are essentially godless, because 999 out of every 1,000 will enter into the hellfire. And they're all Ahlu Ya'juj wa Ma'juj, carbon copies of Gog and Magog. And so they have a way of life, which they seek relentlessly to universalize, to embrace all of mankind in that way of life, which is essentially godless. Power now rests not only on foundations which are essentially godless, power is used to corrupt everything, including religion. Instead of power being used to punish the oppressor, power will now be used to oppress. Instead of power being used to reward those who have faith and whose conduct is righteous, power is now used to wage war on the believers, those who have faith and whose conduct would be righteous. And then the other direction, to the east. When power now rests on foundations which are essentially godless and corrupt, that power will be used to now intervene wherever on the face of the earth people live in a primitive state. People live at a subsistence level, living off the land, living off the rivers. And these people are going to be mercilessly attacked. These people Instead of Zulkarnain showing wisdom, showing compassion by preserving their indigenous way of life, power will now be used to destroy and to corrupt. And so you will see these people, the primitive peoples of the earth, being killed like cockroaches, mercilessly. And those who survive, you will see them being put in settlements, in reservations. And the way of life that they used to have is taken away from them. And now they live with blue jeans and McDonald's hamburgers, drinking alcohol and gambling as a way of life. I went to Australia twice. I was taken to Canberra for a lecture. And then before the lecture we had some time, so they said, let's take you for a drive. And they took me to the new Parliament building. Canberra is the capital of Australia. Sparkling, beautiful white building. Across the road from the new Australian Parliament building, in the gardens, there was a shack like we used to see in Shantytown. We're too small to know about Shantytown. A real Shantytown shack. And that shack was constructed in the park, and there was a big sign there saying Parliament of the Aborigines, the original inhabitants of Australia. Meaning, that's their parliament. The white power structure which came and took over this country and used their power to oppress us, this is ours. Around the world today, the evidence is mounting around the world that the indigenous way of life is disappearing. The primitive way of life is disappearing. Wherever in the world power is used to impact upon them. And so the world is going to witness tragedy upon tragedy, pain upon pain, suffering upon suffering, when Gog and Magog are released. Now let me go to one more hadith. You don't have to take notes because all of this is in the book. All of mankind will suffer, yes, when Gog and Magog are released. But one people will suffer more than all the rest put together. Who are they? When you see these people suffering, unprecedented suffering, the worst oppression that history would ever witness, you know is Gog and Magog. Let's come to the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ is asleep at the home of his wife,